Welcome to the virtual lunch. Today is Wednesday, August 30th. This is virtual lunch number 866. Our guest today is Amy Shepard, the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer at Ballard Spahr. And this is part of our series on fueling firm growth with UniCourt. Amy is actually the fifth all-star in this marketing and business development series. I'm super excited about it. Amy, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so wonderful to be with all of you today.
We're very excited for this. And before we usually start with the guest, I usually want to give the guest a sense of who's on and who her audience is. So I'd love for folks to start. I'll start out with Jeff.
Hey, Amy, great to have you today. I'm Jeff Cox, the Director of Content in UniCourt, a legal data as a service company.
Good morning, Amy. It's nice to meet you. I am Monica Sandler. I'm the Director of Customer Success for EstateWorks. We're a task-based workflow management tool for estate planning and probate attorneys. And I'm a former law firm manager, training manager, and I manage administrator.
Hi, Amy. Nice to see you. Nancy Merland, President of Merland Marketing and Social Media, former senior marketer at what used to be Baker & Daniels, and then turned into Faegre along the way. And been out on my own for 20 years. And I am a marketing and business development advisor specializing in content, social, and digital media. These days, lots of LinkedIn training and Zoom and virtual presentation coaching and podcast launches. It's good to see you.
Hi, Amy. I am Jamie Field, celebrating her cancer-free life, thank goodness. I'm also known as the Rainmaker because I teach attorneys how to build books of business ethically. And the key word is ethically. I work with mid-market, virtual law, and large law firms.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Gilman. I'm a former practicing attorney turned law firm matchmaker. I work candidate facing with law firm rainmakers to help them find their exact right perfect fit so that they can have the right resources, appreciation, and balance that they're looking for. And I'm particularly interested in what you have to say because marketing and business development support is often something people are looking for when they change firms.
Good morning, Amy. My name is Dennis Garcia. I'm an assistant general counsel for Microsoft. I'm based in the Chicago area.
Hi, I'm Julie Stoiber. I'm the chief of staff to the chair at Ballard Spahr, and I never miss an opportunity to hear my buddy Amy talk.
Hello, everybody. Glad to meet you all. I'm a business analyst, and I am also, so my focus includes the Terra Foundation, working with Click, Bizlib, data visualization, and also geeking out on legal tech and organizing hackathons.
I'm Bruce. Hi, welcome. And there it is. We have
I like an efficient man, Bruce. Good job.
Yeah. All right, Amy, please just tell us about your background and the work that you do at Ballard Spahr.
Sure. So I've been with Ballard for 12 years now. I joined the firm back in 2012. I assumed the CMBDO position May 1st, 2017. And so when I first came to Ballard, the focus was really on building up the business development component. There was a strong marketing function, but the firm recognized a need to really amplify our efforts and to really organize and really kind of to support that bifurcation between, carving out space for business development and carving out space for marketing. So it has been an absolutely fantastic journey. It has been such a pleasure to be a part of this firm. And one of the best parts about being part of the Ballard community from the perspective of what I do is that business development and marketing is at the top of every agenda. You'd be hard pressed to go into any meeting, even not just meetings at the practice group level or with the individual attorneys, but also with the other administrative departments. And we have such a wonderful ecosystem of support and understanding that we're all contributors to the marketing and business development success of the firm. And we've just been able to really accomplish a lot and to really evolve our function as the firm has evolved in the time that I've been here. And it's an exciting time for us right now. We are in the throes of a chair transition that'll take place January 1st, 2024, as we transition from Mark Stewart, our current chair, to Peter Michaud, our chair-elect. So there's a lot of really wonderful energy and excitement as we plot a course for the next decades of Ballard Spahr. So very exciting time.
What I noticed when I was reviewing your background, you mentioned taking over this role a number of years ago, but you've really been in this space for most of your career. How did you decide to focus specifically in this area?
So actually, I had a 10-year career in the automotive industry before I transitioned into legal. And that was really, at the time, it just kind of happened that way. But in reflection, it was really the best kind of springboard for what then has now become the focus of my career in legal marketing and business development. And in those 10 years in auto, I had customer service, sales experience, accounting. I ran rental operations. And then my last stint was I stood up one of the very first internet sales departments for dealers. Now you can buy a car without ever leaving the comfort of your home. But in the late 90s, back, when I was still out in the clubs having a good time, buying a car on the internet was not something that was top of mind for people. So it was fascinating to be a part of really a grassroots kind of startup effort to figure out how to bring the auto sales process into, the digital age. So smart move to get out of the auto industry, because after the Great Recession, most of the dealers and organizations, the landscape changed significantly. But it then made the decision to transition into legal through a series of wonderful events that led me to my first firm, which was Decker, and was such a wonderful opportunity to learn and understand a law firm, its political nature, its how law firms operate from, all the different administrative aspects. I was on the administrative side for the first 4 years of that. And then in 2005, found an opportunity to marry my sales and business development experience with my now burgeoning law firm career. And so from 2005 on, legal marketing has been my focus. The opportunity to have that learning and that training in a very aggressive environment where you hear no more than you hear yes, really gave me a lot of skills that are transferable, because I still continue to hear no more frequently than I say yes, but it kind of builds in a resilience that no doesn't really mean no in that context. It just means go back and try again. And I think that what's critical to the success of folks in all of the various legal marketing disciplines is that resilience, and kind of understanding that you're really on a journey to educate, and to create understanding, and to really hone in on what are the drivers for change, and how you can bring those to what you do to hopefully start to grind those very slow moving wheels of change, to get folks to be more open to new approaches and new opportunities, and how we can continue to support generating more revenue for the firm.
Wow, you've captured a bunch of different themes there, but I often think of business development as kind of an adventure, right? You mentioned this rejection, there's opportunity in rejection. And I often think of it as, something of like a fun, will this work? I don't know. Let me try it and see. And I think that there's a lot of truth to that. But how do you mentioned you talked about like sort of merging the marketing and business development. How do they connect? Because this, they're unique disciplines, but like closely tied together.
No, absolutely. I mean, look, one can't really be effective or exist without the other, right? And the marketing side, it's figuring out the strategy and the means and modes to communicate value, and capabilities, and to match that with need. On the business development side, it's the intelligence and the relationship building and the trusted advisor approach to determining what are those needs and what is the value that is going to drive the buying decisions of clients and prospects, and how to differentiate ourselves. I mean, look, this is a very crowded ecosystem. We have lots and lots of folks, and we're all competing for, kind of a net neutral client base. Most companies that are the targets for business development generation, I already have lawyers. And so it really puts a premium on really establishing what that value proposition is, which is going to be different depending on the type of client, the type of market, and also at the same time, keeping pace with emergent issues, right? So I think that, the business development is so important to inform the marketing strategy and the execution of the marketing strategy, and all the things we do to bring that value into the inboxes and into now the living rooms in some cases of our client base. And that has now changed to a warp mode with the impact of the pandemic and just the amazing explosion of different digital marketing techniques, and opportunities for us to leverage, and also appreciating that as we get into the generational differences in our client base, that you really need to have a fully baked, multifaceted approach that will appeal to different buyers in that space, with how they want to consume that content, right? We all started with, we're going to email you our legal alerts, we're going to email you But now when we look at the full complement of all the ways in which we can share that value, it puts even a greater premium on that partnership between marketing and business development. Business development supplying the targeting, the intelligence, the relationship info, and marketing really working hard to be ever aware of the new opportunities to kind of really differentiate that message. And we're blessed to have a team that is really firing on all cylinders on both fronts. And I think that has allowed us to pivot and to capitalize on all of the change that is occurring for us as an industry and also for our clients.
You mentioned something about business development and intelligence. This has come up a few times, especially because we're featuring sort of the most sophisticated leaders in this space, right? So there's an intelligence component to what folks are doing. How are you leveraging data and intelligence to help inform your business development and marketing strategies?
Absolutely. And that is part of something we do every day. I mean, I think that ultimately, in order to be successful as a team, and to really, encompass that role as revenue enablers, we really need to have a strong marketing operations function. The ability for the team to have direct access to data, to understand the data, to be able to model it and provide analysis, which then forms the basis for our approach. And also, it's a very effective approach. When you have a data-driven argument, it's a lot easier to then negotiate with the key stakeholders at the firm and to exert that influence, because the data doesn't lie. And now, the most important thing is understanding that you have to have a baseline understanding of the data, and then have a baseline of the right questions to ask of the data so that you get to the right result. Because oftentimes we find we've positioned ourselves not just as a user of the data, but also we supply data. So we supply within our marketing operations team, we're supplying intelligence information about client performance, market level analysis and opportunity. But it all starts, you can't get to that until you really dig in and understand the data of your firm. And understand what that looks like. What is the data architecture? What does this mean? So that you can clearly tell the story of what's effective from an ROI perspective, where the opportunities are for cross-selling and to create larger, more ensconced relationships that have more touch points. But most importantly, not just what's working, but what's not working. And how to evaluate that investment. It's easy to just focus on telling the story of what works. But there has to be a willingness, everybody talks about innovation, but innovation has to come with a tolerance for failure. So you have to be just as quick to use the data to tell the story of what's not working and have that really be the basis for how you can then take the next pass and make it better. We leverage not just, we all, across the industry, we leverage our research and information centers within our firms. We have a terrific one that supplies a lot of information. We get great data and insights from our partners across the industry, such as Calibrate and Thomson Reuters and Intap and others. And I think it's really about having that partnership between ownership and understanding of the firm data within our own team, and not just being a client of the financial planning and analysis team serving up data. And I think that has really allowed us, and I, again, am blessed to have what I believe to be one of the best marketing operations teams out there, who is able to be nimble and effective with not just pulling the data, but helping with that analysis, and then through partnerships with the other administrative functions of the firm, our IT team, our client value and innovation team, to take that data and make it actionable and put it in the hands of the attorneys. That's where that partnership is so critical. We can come up with the analysis and serve up the information, but it is our IT partners and our client value and innovation partners that then help us make it so that it's digestible and actionable, so that because it's overwhelming if you're trying to boil the ocean and take all this in. And so having those strong teams at this firm and those strong partnerships, as well as kind of building upon the base of the strength within the own team, that has just been it's a pleasure every day to do this work.
Wow, Julie, please convey my compliments to the chair for having such a gifted person on the C-suite. It's this is awesome.
Amy, thanks again for being here and sharing your insights. You participated in a report that UniCourt produced with Baretz+Brunelle as a research partner, and we saw kind of how firms are using data for business development and marketing. There's a really broad spectrum of like how mature they are in terms of how they're using data, but it really seemed like Ballard Spahr was on the high end of that spectrum. Especially since you have some awesome people like Lisa Mayo, who's doing your data and analytics. As someone who's a little more mature than maybe some other firms, how are you using data proactively it seemed like a lot of firms are very reactive or responsive to kind of just things that are coming in, but it seemed like you were using it more in a proactive fashion.
No, and again, I think it comes to that our argument of building data-driven data-driven proposals, right? So when we are tackling an issue or problem, or we see an opportunity, the first thing we start is, well, let's take a look at the data. Let's see what data we have that is going to give us a sense of what we know and what we don't know. That's the baseline, and then go out to the universe of information, which can be overwhelming. And figure out how we can supplement what we know internally with what's available. And I think that in order to be effective, and particularly again with so many emerging areas and areas of opportunity, emerging markets and other things, we can't wait to be asked. And I think, again, that's why having a strong marketing operations function that is constantly working with this data, not only are we responsive to brainstorming sessions or targeting discussions where we're thinking about where should we be turning next, how can we take something that's working and amplify it, how can we redirect or pivot if we're not seeing the results that we want. That's one opportunity. But then as we're working with the data every day, and because we are so close to it, we can often sometimes see when we're pulling reporting or information, say, I see a pattern here. Let's take it, let's stop and let's see where this is going and see if that's going to help inform where maybe we should be redirecting resources. Obviously, when it comes to all of my colleagues across this space are always fighting for every dollar and to shift the marketing and business development function from a cost center to an investment center. That's where the data is really critical, and constantly mining that data to be able to demonstrate where we've made recommendations and they're bearing fruit, or where, as I pointed earlier, you have to be willing to call it when you get it wrong. And I think that is what helps build that trusted advisor relationship. Is if someone always has the answers and they never fail, they're going to fail eventually. And I'm not sure that I want to be their test case. So it's a lot easier when someone is kind of showing me that iterative journey along the way, that we're in this together and I don't have all the answers either, particularly when it comes to business development, because it's not always a clear shot. If you're just chasing what everybody else is chasing, then you'll get your share. But if you're really trying to grow your market share, you really need to be thinking about it holistically and not just dealing with what's in front of you, but also trying to look out ahead. And I think, again, the familiarity with the data, and not only do we have the strong team I mentioned, but we educate others around us as well, so that while the data may not be germane for a person on the tech team, or actually it is on the tech team, but somebody in communications somewhere else, we regularly share and present on that information and share that learning, because it provides the context of understanding how you're contributing to the greater goal. So I think it's a misnomer for everyone should be invested and interested in this data. And for people starting out in this industry, in the junior levels, the sooner you can understand that and really learn how to leverage the data and how to ask those questions and understand how the data can work for you, that's what fuels success. And as I've seen people, even on my own team, transition out into other roles and things, I think that footing and understanding firm data has served them well as they've continued to achieve.
Oh, thank you, Bruce. Well, first, actually, my question is sort of based in Saya's. I'm sorry. I hope I pronounced that correctly. I apologize. Insia, she wrote, love to hear more about the data. What systems and data sources is all the data flowing from? Where do you house it? And you mentioned you provide data. Is that to internal departments and practice groups, or does that include other law firms and clients too? And then part of that, I wanted to ask, specifically, are you using any AI programs, and which ones, and how are you using them?
Well, and so I'm going to start, and if I miss one of those points, you can keep me honest and make sure that I didn't miss anything. But ultimately, it comes back to what I mentioned with that powerful partnership. Now, so this is where it extends to our financial planning and analysis team, right? So between, IT as a function, financial planning and analysis, and then our client value and innovation, and then us, right? So I think the big game changer was the shift of firms to enterprise data warehouses, because that allows us then, for years, as we were trying to leverage the data, not surprisingly, it's only as good as whoever thinks the source of the truth, and how are you going to make sure that the data I have is the same data you have? And so the evolution and the ability to shift to a enterprise data warehouse that allows us to all be leveraging each other's data. not only are we a marketing client of the data warehouse, we are a supplier of data to the warehouse too, because we are also producing lots and lots of information, targeted information that supports our Mansfield certification through our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts and other things. So we need to not, like, again, it's a very symbiotic relationship where it's a push-pull all the time. We're pushing data from our CRM system. We've just implemented our the Intapp One Place product with a massively successful rollout at the start of this year that continues. And so we're pushing data through there as well. So the ability to get away from difficult APIs and other things that can break and can be unstable, or you're at the mercy of those connections and it all falls apart. The stability of the data warehouse has really been key. Prior to that, like other firms, we're pulling data out of our financial systems, we're leveraging Access databases and other things. And then, as I mentioned, our partnership with our client value and innovation colleagues has allowed us to, leverage SharePoint and other Microsoft Power BI tools and things to be able to then model that information in a way that makes it easier to manipulate and to visualize. Because I think that, spreadsheets I love nothing more than a good pivot table, and I can sit in there and slice and dice for days, but there's a recognition that the audience of who you're trying to, get comfortable with this data, they don't want to, this Excel spreadsheet, and is everyone like, I don't want to, don't show me that. Show me a dashboard that allows me to isolate on the information that is important to me. Show me how to drill down to get to the base data so that way, if I have to gut check that. So I think that that's really been a game changer, particularly in the last couple of years. We've been at this for a long time using all the other ways to get data. And honestly, it was a huge component of our CRM implementation was to really, that project took 5 years from signing the contract to rolling it out to the firm. But it needed to take 5 years because we had to spend a lot of time to evaluate the data architecture. What information are we pulling? How can we leverage it? How can we take all of the inputs, whether it's coming from matter intake or whether it's coming from the financial system? How can we ensure that we are already leveraging what's there so we're not trying to recreate the wheel and get further faster? And I think that the development of these tools, in particular in the last 5 years, has really allowed us to vault ahead in a way that I think has just been a huge benefit. On the AI side, early days there, I see tremendous opportunity to leverage AI technology in the marketing space, particularly when it comes to things like experience and other things. Even though obviously AI provides, the opportunity to get churned out written content, I don't think anything will ever supplant the subject matter expertise and the guiding hand of our incredibly talented writers and communications and PR professionals. I think that AI also can provide a great learning opportunity for certain things, particularly for new members who are looking to get information or get their arms around complicated subject matters and other things. I think it can be a good resource to be used in addition to the learning you get directly from the subject matter experts on the attorney side and the available industry information. But I'm really excited to see how our technology vendors leverage the AI opportunity to take what we're doing and not redirect us into a whole new platform, but to supplement and improve and kind of add an AI level and layer on top of the systems and programs that are already working really well for us. So, but I think that, again, it all starts, you can't do all of that until you develop that baseline understanding. Because then you can easily go down a data rabbit hole, right? And spend a lot of time cleaning up information and data that you really don't need. And I think that one of the things that helped us really kind of cut through that in the CRM implementation was, our technology management team and within the marketing technology management team, really their first cut was to determine what data do I really need and what data can I just let go? Because if we're going to worry about all the, 500,000 contacts in this system and try to fix all of that, we're never going to get anywhere. And so really prioritizing with the priorities of the firm, right? Who are our key client relationships? Which relationships are ripe for growth? Which relationships are phasing out? How about all these people that are just kind of hanging on that, somebody's podiatrist or their dog walker, like really kind of, getting through the noise as we all transition from what used to be an Outlook-based model, right? To these are the firm's contacts and not yours. And they don't live in the contact list on your phone. And so I think it all turns, again, it just comes back to a willingness to just, have that understanding and then clear out the cobwebs so that you don't end up spinning your wheels on data projects that go nowhere. I hope I got all of those, Julie. Please
Wow,
keep me honest.
you got them all. Jamie's cut off. It's off. No. I'm just kidding.
And you know, BD is defined in lots of different ways, and I know working in law firms for many years, it's always business development, looking at the contacts, looking at, you know, people's, like you said, it's not your contacts, it's the firm contacts. And I work with lots of firms, and there was lots of, you know, sword fights around that conversation. But take a look at it a little differently, and maybe you do, and maybe you don't, because when I worked for firms, they didn't, is taking all the data about other law firms and saying which client bases do they have, and then reaching out to Jennifer, who's the matchmaker of the world of law firms and people, and saying, hey, look, find me this, or I'm looking at this. We're interested in growing here, but we don't want to do the contact. Reach out to Jennifer, who does that, and say, hey, look, this is where we pull, and I need this group of people. Does the firm look outside for the business development, not from the client to acquire, but the law firm to steal a practice group to enhance your footprint in this world?
So thanks for that, Bruce. Absolutely, we do. So another critical partnership is with the firm leadership, as well as our chief attorney recruiting officer, because we are looking at that, right? What are we supply data and analysis as well to them, to be able to consider, if there are areas of opportunity for us, capabilities that we feel that we're missing, that it is too difficult to try to grow up, from baby associates to fully fledged rainmakers. And sometimes the most nimble course is to look for those groups to try to entice to come to the firm. We do supply data and analysis, looking externally at market level and industry level reporting, things that we're able to derive from, as I mentioned, some of the partnerships we have with Thomson Reuters and Citi and others, to be able to glean some of that. But then also looking at providing analysis about the size of those groups. Who are they serving? Who are they representing? Are there key markets or jurisdictions that align with needs we also have? That if we know, not only would their capabilities be able to allow us to provide an additional service line or amplify or complementary practice, for example, like life sciences and FDA practice, right? If that's something that is necessary in order to grow that. But then there's also opportunities to, there's the practitioners, the practice themselves. But then also there are times when we have needs in markets for existing clients where we're not necessarily in. And the perfect analysis, right? The reports I love to serve up the best are, here's an opportunity, they have the capabilities, and oh, wait, look, we also have clients who are regularly having issues in these markets. And not only would this allow us to expand that complementary area, but we can also use our presence in that market to be able to capture more of those needs that we might not be able to serve right now. And so it is a critical partnership. And to your point, Bruce, we take that data, we supply that information to firm leadership who are considering those options and having those conversations. And then that data then goes to my colleagues and others who then work with folks to identify who those opportunities may be. And also, again, coming back to communicating the value of what the Ballard Spahr platform can provide to those individuals to allow them to be able to build and grow their practices. Again, the marketing and business development is not just about the clients and prospects. It's about attracting laterals. It's about attracting groups, merger opportunities, and also staff and additional lawyers. So our role is really all encompassing. And I think in order to really be ingrained in the firm, it's the building of those relationships cross-functionally with those administrative departments, and also demonstrating value in all those areas. The challenge becomes that's a lot to handle. And it can be difficult to find balance, as I know our team struggles every single day, with how to find balance between supporting that internally, right? Because we're not necessarily carrying those messages externally, but we need to supply the value proposition and the materials and the succinct descriptions of why Ballard. And then at the same time, serve all the external facing needs that are, also seen as a priority, because they in the minds of everyone, those are the revenue generating opportunities that hopefully will bear fruit sooner. So it's definitely a mix, and it's difficult to find balance and prioritization in that. And that's something we struggle with every day. But the good news is at Ballard, we have a very open discussion between me as the Chief Marketing and Business Development Officer and firm leadership about what are the resources that we need to do that. And also a lot of support to kind of help set those pillars so that we don't get swamped. Because next thing you know, you're constantly adding things at the top of the pile and you're never getting to the stuff at the bottom. And so it's really a daily balance. And again, I'm so lucky to have a terrific team that exerts that influence in all of those ways every single day.
My name is Chris Conjero. I am the Chief Executive Officer at DocStyle. Been in legal tech for the last 20 plus years. So from the outside in, I've been working with law firms for my entire career. I've seen some things that are good. I've seen some things that are bad. What you're talking about is closer to the exceptional side in terms of how law firms have set up systems and thoughtfully put together the infrastructure. The fact that you waited 5 years to release the CRM system to the end users is unbelievable, in my opinion, because it really tells me that you put a lot of thought and care into how you design and what data is important, and really sifting through and saying, where are we going to put a thoughtful solution in front of people that they can utilize and consume, and we're not, overcomplicating. But my conversation kind of stems back to something that you were talking about earlier, and it stems on bad practices and identifying those, and what are some of your internal controls that you have in place to identify the need for training and how it relates to the utilization of data and a smooth operation, the intercommunication within the firm. When you bring people in from other firms, are there bad practices? And we've hired people from law firms in the past that have an expertise in documents, but we find that sometimes they need to be retrained because there are a lot of bad practices and bad habits that get instilled, especially when you hire somebody who's been around, in a certain model for 20, 25 years. There are some things that, like for example, the need to panic and solve the problem rather than thoughtfully approach the resolution and do it in a timely manner because somebody's not breathing down your neck anymore when they used to be. So things like that. Where are the gaps? How do you identify? How do you get people to self-correct those bad habits, those bad practices, and then how it relates to the solution and the model that you put in place? If you could speak to that a little bit, because there's a human side. It's not just the technology and the data.
No, absolutely. Well, I'm glad it's such an easy question. So thanks for that.
I was just thinking, this is the 8-part question day, Amy. So thank you for being patient.
I mean, I think to answer your question, and ultimately all of this, whether it's trying to influence, a different tactic when it comes to marketing and business development, or even, from how we get the work done. I think it has to be rooted in the benefit for the individual. If you're asking attorneys to adopt a technology or to adopt a position, you have to be able to demonstrate how it's going to, first of all, make them more money. That money always wins. Something that carried over from the car business. So, money's always king. How it can save them time, how it can give them time back, right? We know now that this environment, which is really challenging, look, this has always been a churn, right? Where it's long hours, it's a lot of work, a lot of fire drills, a lot of last minute things pop up. And then the pandemic came, and now everyone's like, whoa, I want work-life balance. I don't want to be responding to emails at 10 o'clock at night. I don't want to be on call at 7 in the morning. So, now it's about, okay, so now it's a powerful opportunity as a leader to take a step back. And when you're kind of thinking about that change management plan, how can I communicate how whatever it is that we're trying to do, whether it's changing a process, improving a workflow, changing a data approach, putting better data rules and architecture in place, it has to be rooted in what the benefit is for the person you're asking to make the change. And I think that has been really effective for us. Over the 12 years that I've been at the firm, we have changed and retooled and restructured multiple times because we evolved to meet where the firm is, and the firm's constantly changing, right? This is a living, breathing environment that is, moving to the market and moving to client needs. And so the strategies and the priorities are constantly changing. And so, just like everything else, you finally get to the point where you're like, all right, we're good. And then, a global pandemic drops out of the sky, and now no one's in the office. And now we have to figure out how to maintain connections and teach people how to create networks and connections through a completely unnatural setting. And so I think that really has been the strategy. And to your point, when we onboard new folks, we have a very robust onboarding plan for people entering the marketing and business development team that not only focuses on why they're here, but also creates understanding about why everybody else is here, and how that interconnectivity of that. You may think that this is the best way to get work done, is I'm going to put my head down and do that, but really making the connection so that you understand the impact that you're having on everyone else in the team who also needs to get those things done. And most times we're able to kind of get people excited when we interview folks about joining us and other things. We do spend some time talking about, what do they feel they need to succeed? And then we really try to message our strategies and approaches and the reasons why we do it the way we do it. Because obviously it has to fit for the culture of Ballard Spahr. And just like every firm, we have different things that, some things are easier to get done, some things are harder. There's value discussions about, something that's valuable to our litigation department is not necessarily going to be the same thing that's valuable to our business and transactions department. And I think that starting that out at a baseline with our own team that allows folks to feel more comfortable thinking about how to solve those problems, but how to adopt those new approaches when they take it out to the next level. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it did. It touched on a lot of the things that I was asking about, and it's really refreshing. I got to be honest with you. It's really nice to hear, and it talks a lot to the investment from firm leadership, because you would never be able to pull this off if they weren't 1,000% in and supporting the effort and helping drive that because this is change. So, and it's very positive. So thank you very much.
No, and I think the other piece of it is that, being here for 12 years makes a big difference. I have grown and changed with the firm too, right? And so we're on that journey together. I think one of the biggest challenges for my peers and for all of us is that, it takes years to really understand the underlying culture and how to drive change and to understand the pace of change that the firm culture will tolerate. It is really difficult to do that if every 3 years, you have to start, and also a willingness for firm leadership to know that it really won't help the long-term strategy if you let the little things blow up and then you say, oh, we need to make a change. But do we need to make a change, or should we just give some feedback and allow the program and the leader to redirect and to, you as leadership changes too. As I mentioned, we have a big chair transition coming. And so being here to be a part of that and to understand how we're shifting and how Mark's priorities and Pete's priorities, how they align, how they're different, how that's you can only do that if you're walking in the door when that chair takes the helm. Really difficult to be able to provide the guidance and support that's necessary when you got to get all that backstory. Otherwise, and even when I first came here, as my colleague Julie Stoiber, who's on the call, knows, I came from different firms that had a very different approach, and I wish I knew then what I know now about how to pace things for this firm, as opposed to just knowing I know what the right answer is. You have to have a willingness to be patient, and as we talked early in the beginning, you got to go through all the no's, and it takes a long time to build the credibility with the partnership. Because even if you have it with the leaders, that's the leadership, that's great, but you need to build those relationships with the partners across the firm. Because one, you never know who the next leaders are going to be. So that's number one. And number two, it comes back to being able to root your arguments for change in what is meaningful to them. And that's going to be, for us, 225 different answers.
My question is, and I think you've already answered this, but I will say it, that it's the CMOs that I know all complain about their departments having real trouble with lawyers listening to them to say, yes, let's go for this, or this is the best way for me to market myself and so forth. Tough time. Or the opposite. They jump on every single marketing tactic. They see one lawyer who has a podcast, they want it. How do you, and you probably have already said it, but how do you manage that and communicate with that? And the other thing, when you talked about, interesting enough, he hasn't been on for a long time, but his name is Jeff Shorts. And see how long he hasn't been on? I forgot his last name. So Jeff says that when you've been in a firm for a really long time, that you become, he calls it the deranged hobo. They stop listening to you because you've been there for so long, right? They don't really consider your ideas and so forth. But somebody can come in, a deranged hobo, and say exactly the same thing that you have been saying for months. And they'll go, oh, that's fantastic. Let's go with that. So I just want to know the human aspect. How do you navigate your way through that, trying to get them to either do stuff or not do things?
I'll start with the last part first, if that's okay. I mean, look, I just want to win. So I appreciate that sometimes the path to winning is not for me to carry the message. And I think that that's part of, I absolutely agree with you. And look, I've, at the various firms I've worked at, there's differing tolerances for the external perspective, right? Some firms are like, consultants, or forget it. I don't want to. Or like one of the things we've really tried to retool is, oh, I need a BD coach, so I have to hire someone from the outside. It's like, we have an entire team of professionals right in front of you. And really, so then the question isn't so much that, oh, all right, fine, they're never going to listen to me, I'll just walk away. What do I need to do to position my team so that the thought isn't, let me go external? And we've been able to build an internal coaching program that now we're not hiring external BD coaches necessarily at every instance, because we've been able to establish that baseline credibility through a data-driven approach, bringing it all back to full circle, that shows through data the power of being a participant in our coaching program with our coaches. And so in those instances, Shireen, where I absolutely recognize that perhaps my voice isn't going to be the one that's influencing, and I have no ego there, I just want to get to the outcome I want. So sometimes I will purposefully not carry the banner, because it may be better helmed by someone else. And maybe that argument or their approach or their experience and their background is going to be the thing that tips the scale. As long as we get to the outcome that I'm trying to drive for, I don't care how we get there. Well, we all win then. So I think there has to be a willingness to make space for that, and to just say, if I need to bring that, deranged hobo in to help me get it done, well then, and look, sometimes I've also picked the wrong deranged hobo. Sometimes, I think that someone's right, and then it's like, well, that was a disaster. And every no is a learning opportunity, right? Every initiative that didn't work, or every time you try to tee things up. And look, there are times when I'll go up and I'll say, I think it's time to try this again, because the market has changed, because leadership has changed, because the issues that we're facing, the information that we have has changed. So I think that, sometimes people are too quick to give up on good ideas, and it's hard, right? To have, going back to the resilience I talked about, right? When you put a lot of time and heart and energy into crafting a strategy or an approach, only to have it decimated by doubt and an unwillingness to change, or kind of like you're sent away, it takes a little bit to recover from that. But you should never completely throw it out, because there's something there. You just have to figure out where the means, and the modes are. So that's, in terms of the other side of it. And I think in terms of the length and the duration, I agree with you. My hope is, as I, think about the next 20 years of my career, is that it'll take about 25 years before they don't listen to me anymore. And then that way I can, get past my son getting out of college, and I'll be on a boat somewhere and, doing whatever I want to do. But look, I think that it goes both ways. There's always going to be a beat of, well, let's get that, the newest perspective. This person's saying this, but I think that it's on me to be a student of the industry, to be consuming content from all of you folks, to be informing my perspective, to gut check my approach, so that if I can infuse a confidence that what I am speaking from and the information and the data that I am using is the most relevant and where it is. And that's why having the opportunity to participate in like the report with Baretz+Brunelle and UniCourt and consuming content, Nancy, like what you're putting out there are great minds out there. And I don't purport to have all the answers, but it is my job to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on. And I think that's the counterbalance. Sometimes you can get so consumed with your firm's internal culture and just the machinations on a day-to-day basis of just getting stuff done. And let's face it, a lot of times this job, I joke all the time that you could easily call it the chief complaint box. I get complaints about things that I don't even have anything to do with. And so I think that it's just a willingness to always listen, to always be available, to accept that we are never going to get it perfect. We will never be perfect. We're human. And I don't want to go in the direction of an AI driven where you're eliminating the human touch that also allows for mistakes. But every mistake and every misstep provides an opportunity to retool. And I think it's really just that balance of both staying informed and attuned to the internal culture and marrying that with a healthy awareness and a constant consuming of information, because there are so many amazing thought leaders. Like, again, the folks who are here with me today for this wonderful lunch, who are just talking about things and positioning things in a way that I don't think we ever thought of before. And it's just such an exciting time to be a part of driving this change. So
Amy Sheppard, everybody. Wow, what a great discussion. I'm glad that Lucy popped in to hear you. I know your colleagues, and I really appreciate this. And I'm just so grateful for everyone's time. Thanks to, of course, to UniCourt for supporting this series on fueling firm growth. Amy, it's been such a privilege. Thank you so much.